So I want to talk about status divides in academia. We see these a lot, whether it is a divide between a PhD student or undergraduate student and a PhD student with a professor with a full professor. There's all sorts of things like that divide status roles, and a lot of us feel uncomfortable with those status roles where you feel that you're trapped, you feel like you can't do something. And I want to talk about that at this moment because I think it is super important to deal with. It's a real big part of dealing with the academic game. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. All right, so the key to remember is that there actually is a lot of status divides that happen within academia where you feel like you are trapped or you can't get to a certain moment, or that there's really what are called gatekeepers, right? So gatekeepers are these people that are in positions that open up opportunities for other people, and they sort of assess where you are in the position that you actually have within sort of the moment, right? They sort of make an assessment of what you're doing, and they say, oh, you're good enough, and so you get this opportunity. And so we get these status divides that happen. You could see sort of different rankings, all these kind of stuff. There's lots of different status divides. And I think, as somebody that's sort of at lower status and sort of going to higher status, you often feel trapped, or you feel like you can't get anywhere. And these are very real feelings. Ultimately, what ends up happening, I think, is that both sides, and it's unfortunate the way that it is set up in terms of a competitive system, but it's a system that's set up right now, and both sides are really grappling with what to do, and they don't know what to do. Often, the person that's the gatekeeper, that's sort of at the higher status, they have to make some uncomfortable decisions, and they're often not the right decision. We know that. They're far from perfect. There's a lot of different criteria that go on. And the person that's sort of grappling with that, they're the person that's sort of lower status are trying to figure out what is going on. I can't figure this kind of stuff out. So they get frustrated and angry, and all of these emotions come out. And I really just want to point out at this moment is there's a lot of things that are incredibly unfair in academia. There's lots and lots of incredibly unfair things. And that's not going to go away anytime soon, because that's a structure that you are part of. That's really what happens within the research game. That's what happens within university systems. There's a lot of unfairness. We've sort of laid it out over many years of decades and decades and decades to establish this kind of, ultimately systematic unfairness. But the thing is, you have to think of alternatives and how to navigate that. And it's not always really easy to come up with those alternatives. People at the sort of higher status of how things work, they know that there's a lot of unfairness. They're very well aware of that kind of stuff. And now some people, a portion of those sort of believe that because it was tough and I couldn't do it, then I should be tough on everybody else. And I respect that. I get it. That's really, really, that's a feeling you do get. You definitely get that. But at the same time, there's a whole group of people that recognize that there are a lot of really just not great things, right? And sort of unfairness that happens because of these status divides. So what I would like for you to think about, and it sort of manifests, before I get into sort of where to go, it manifests in all sorts of weird ways, right? So there's a lot of anonymous comments and sort of nastiness that happens where people feel frustrated and they do anonymous nasty comments. It's super popular, by the way. You just have to look at, there's this website for economists trying to, and it made big news in how was just awful comments because everybody was anonymous on there. It was a bunch of PhD academics, and they could be very anonymous and kind of not very nice. And I've seen that in multiple domains. It's just not economists, it's all sorts of people. And we have to recognize that, hey, you know what? This is how people are dealing with these emotions, of dealing with the status divide that we see. And it's not fair. It really is not fair. But what we can do going forward is recognize that there are these frustrations. And it is a painful process. And there's no clear answers. I think what we need to do is remove ourselves from the sort of outcome perspective in terms of what we're focusing on. Like, we got to get this done, and we got to focus on publishing, and say, screw it. We're going to do this and do a good job. We're going to do the thing that's right. And I think if you do that over time, it sort of removes you from the situation. And then you forget about all of the feelings that you get. And you focus on things like, you know what? I'm happy with where I am in terms of and having a wonderful, family, for example. Or, I've got clothing that I'm happy about. Or I love to go for a walk. All these really subtle, tiny things are the things that are actually really important. All of that other stuff, that sort of status divides and the nastiness and, gatekeepers and all of that kind of stuff, ultimately, that doesn't matter in the long run. What matters is that you actually have, you just love your life in the moment, in the time, in what you're doing right now. And you look around, you say, wait a minute, hey, it's beautiful outside right now. So it's raining. Right here, right now, it's hot and rainy, but it's beautiful, and you have to look at that and forget about all of the nonsense. I think you need to sort of see the beauty in what's going on. And I think a lot of you that are going through this in the first go round, you're going to say that this is hogwash. All of this stuff is hogwash, and it is, but it's the way that I cope with all of this. It's the way that I deal with the anxiety that happens, where I can take a step back and I can remove myself from the situation, and I can say, hey, I can actually deal with this. I deal with this by looking around and enjoying where I'm at. Maybe getting some ice cream. Maybe saying hi. Maybe listening to music really loud in my car. Just those things like that, where I can remove myself from the situation and drown out the noise of the status divides and the gatekeepers and all of those kind of things, and just focus on, hey, I'm a good person, and that's all that matters. That's it. And I think we need to start focusing on that rather than all of the inequality and challenges that we face, because those are really big things, but those are going to take a long time to change. And all of those frustrations that you feel are real, but then you have to figure out how to deal with them in the moment. And that's how I deal with them. I look around and I look at how much I actually appreciate you and how much I appreciate the world around me, even though sometimes it sucks. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.